Hello everybody, it is Stella from New Hope Wellbeing and we are back with another video, and today is the first of our Sumerian mythology gods and goddesses videos. So a bit like the last couple, I'm going to start by breaking down initially the creation myth of the mythology, and then from there we'll start going into the various gods and goddesses. So this is the Sumerian creation myth. So the Sumerians were the people of southern Mesopotamia whose civilization flourished between 4100 and 1750 BCE. Their name comes from the region which is referred to as Sumer, which is a region of city-states which each had its own king. Sumer was the southern counterpart of the northern region of Akkad, whose people gave Sumer its name, meaning land of the civilized kings. The Sumerians themselves refer to their region simply as the land, or the land of the black-headed people. The Sumerians were responsible for many of the most important inventions and concepts taken for granted in present day. They invented time by dividing day and night into 12-hour periods or hours, and those hours into 60 minutes, and those minutes into 60 seconds. Their other innovations and inventions include the first schools, the earliest version of the tale of the Great Flood, and other biblical narratives. The oldest heroic epic, governmental bureaucracy, monumental architecture, and irrigation techniques are also attributed to the Sumerians. They are currently the oldest known mythology that we have. That's not to say that there may not possibly be something older out there. There quite possibly is. It's just that we have yet to discover it or understand it. So the Sumerian creation myth can be found on a tablet in Nippur, in an ancient Mesopotamian city founded in approximately 5000 BC. The creation of the earth, and Enuma Elish, according to the Sumerian tablets, begins like this. When in the height, heaven was not named, and the earth beneath did not yet bear a name. And the primeval Apsu, who begat them, and Chaos. Tiamat, the mother of them both. Their waters were mingled together, and no field was formed, no marsh was to be seen. When of the gods none had been called into being, and none bore a name, and no destinies were ordained. Then were created the gods in the midst of heaven. Lamu and Laamu were called into being. When the gods, like men, bore the work and suffered the toil of the gods was great, the work was heavy, and the distress was much. Anu, the god of the gods, agreed that their labour was too great. His son Enki proposed to create man to bear the labour, and so with the help of his half-sister, Ninki, he did. A god was put to death, and his body and blood were mixed with clay. From that material, the first human being was created, in the likeness of the gods. You have slaughtered a god together. With his personality, I have removed your heavy work. I have imposed your toil on man. In the clay, God and man shall be bound, to a unity brought together. So that to the end of days, the flesh and the soul, which in a god have ripened, that soul is a blood kinship be bound. So this first man was created in Eden, the Sumerian word for which means flat terrain in the Epic of Gilgamesh. Take note. So this is where you can start to see where a lot of the tales that we we attribute to certain mythologies are borrowed tales from older mythologies and older mythologies yet again. So Eden, the first man was created in Eden, and this is in the Sumerian mythology and the Sumerian creation myth, which predates anything to do with the modern religions, shall we say. Eden is mentioned as the garden of the gods and located somewhere in Mesopotamia between the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers. The tale in summary tells us that, I'm going to pronounce this word incredibly wrong, but I think it's the Igigi gods toiled endlessly, burdened by labour meant to shape the world. Weary and desperate, they cried out to Nama, the primeval mother, for relief. She turned to Enki, the god of wisdom and creation, and urged him to act. Enki, resting in the sacred waters of the Apsu, awakened and devised a plan. Using divine clay and the sacrificed essence of Gestu, a god of intelligence, he shaped humanity to bear the labours of the gods. With humans taking over their work, the gods rejoiced and celebrated in the midst of their revelry. Enki and Ninmah, the mother goddess, engaged in a playful contest. Ninmah shaped flawed beings, but Enki gave them purpose. When Enki created a being so deformed that even she could not fix it, she cursed him in frustration. Yet Enki accepted failure with wisdom, proving that even the gods were not above imperfection. After the rise of the Amorites in Mesopotamia and the invasion of the Elamites, I think it is pronounced, Sumer ceased to exist and was known through references in the works of ancient writers, including the scribes who wrote, and this is where I'm circling back, who wrote the biblical book of Genesis. Sumer remained unknown until the mid-19th century CE, when excavations in Mesopotamia unearthed their civilization and brought their many contributions to light. So note, the first man was created in Eden, which is a Sumerian word for flat terrain. And according to the Sumerian mythology, Eden is mentioned as the garden of the gods and is located somewhere in Mesopotamia between the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers. Now, after the rise of so we have the Elamites. So after the rise of the Amorites and the Elamites, Sumer ceased to exist and is lost, but the stories still remain. And it is through the retelling of those stories that we then get the biblical book of the book of Genesis, which then comes back to tell us about Eden and the first man. And of course we do not rediscover Sumer until the mid-19th century CE, where excavations in Mesopotamia revealed the Sumerian civilization and their contributions to many of the things we do take for granted, such as how we calculate time and the week and the month and our calendar year. So that is just a little bit about the Sumerian creation myth. I will be back next week with the next one, where I will break down how the gods are actually broken down in the Sumerian mythologies, in the Sumerian culture, which is a little bit different to how the Greeks did it, because obviously the Greek mythology had the primordials and the Titans, then the Olympians. The Sumerians did it a little bit differently, so I will be breaking that down in the next video, and before we get into the actual first of the gods. So a bit like with some of the Greek gods, where like, you know, if you remember, there were some weeks where I didn't have a lot of information on a particular god or goddess because there isn't a lot left. But the same with the Sumerian gods as well. So some we know more about than others. So some videos will be a lot shorter than others. But as we go through it, I will share what I have been able to discover through my research so far. But until then, I hope everybody has a great rest of their week and weekend, and we'll chat soon. Bye.